Let's get kicked off with the listing process. We talked about leads. So now we have someone who says, hey, I saw your videos or I saw your content. I'd like for you to tell me how much my home's worth, or come out, I'm interviewing agents. Or it's a friend or family who says, hey, I want to sell and I know you're going to be my agent. Just come out and let's talk. Whatever it is, it doesn't matter, right? We want to get through to that person and let them know how great you are. And one way we do that is through the process that we have. If you already have a listing process, fantastic. Hopefully you pick up a couple things in here. If you don't have a listing process, that's where we're going to start from a little bit with this. And you know, the overview of the listing roadmap sometimes goes like this with sellers. Interviewing agents, they choose the agent. You work with documents and the pricing, help them prep their home. You do the marketing and pictures. Coming soon if you're doing that. Have offers, negotiations, due diligence, under contract, appraisal, repairs, final walkthrough, and then the closing, and then follow up with the seller, right? So easy, right? I mean, it's you know, there's a lot of steps to this, but you can make this a process and a system for you that works the same way, the same great way every time. And that's what we're going to talk about today. So a lot of different steps in there, but let's break it down. We want to have a pre-listing, number one, the presentation, number two, and then the prep and the marketing part as number three. So let's jump into the pre-listing. Does anyone in here currently chat with the seller before they actually go out and meet the seller at the seller's home? So this part of what we're going to talk about today, and you're going to have this this worksheet right here to be able to have these questions. But what I would advise you to do, if you don't do this already, for those of you who don't, is to have this sort of like a, you would call it this, not to the seller, but sort of a pre-qualification, right? It's not qualifying them as a seller as much as it is qualifying the info they give you so that you can be prepared as best possible when you go meet them, right? If you're meeting with that seller and they are meeting with 2 to 3 other agents, you want to be prepared as best possible for that 30 minutes, 45 minutes, an hour, however much time you get with that seller. You want to be the one that's prepared the best. The way you do that is with information from that seller. So what we do here and what we recommend is that you have these questions for your seller before you go out. So this is a phone conversation typically as you're getting to set up that appointment. Great, Friday at 2 sounds great. I'll be there, can't wait. Can I ask you a couple of questions that's going to help me really in the process, help you to be able to sell your home as quickly as possible for the right price, whatever information you want to say there. But this is really what some of these questions can look like. You can ask any of these, all of these different ones. It doesn't really matter. The point is to be able to get the answer to some of these questions. So why are you selling? That's a big motivation piece, right? That really tells it tells you how serious this person is about selling the property. They could say, hey, we're trying to take advantage of this hot market. Well, 8 months ago, 6 months ago, you know, maybe that was an answer you heard and you're like, great, let's put it at whatever price you want. Today, you might have a different answer for that, right? But at least you know what their reason is for saying that. It's a very easy, simple way to break into this. Have you decided where you're moving? If they say, yes, I'm moving to, you know, Tennessee, I've already bought that property or whatever, I need to move out of this property. Again, it's another motivational, you know, type of question. And then what is your ideal time frame to move out, right? So you're getting to know them, you're getting to know what their story is and what you're going to help them with. But also you're understanding, again, more motivation. Then we talk about the house a little bit. Have you completed any updates to the home since you've lived in it? That gives you an idea when you're building your comparisons. They say, yes, we've replaced countertops, we have finished the basement, we replaced the deck. Okay, now you know all the things since the last time it sold to be able to add in for kind of a pricing range when you go out there. And you're not surprised when you go out there and you see all of those things and then you say, oh, I got to calculate, how much is that? How much is that worth? How much is that worth in this area, right? You already know that. So you're going to be ahead of anyone who's not asking questions of that seller. If you were to rate the current condition 1 to 10, with 10 being immaculate, what would you rate the current condition of your home? Would you make it what would make it a 10 in a buyer's eyes? So you're kind of giving them that setup of, hey, I know you might rate it a 10, but you know, what would it take to make it a 10 in the buyer's eyes? And they may say, oh yeah, you know, this other thing needs to be replaced or repaired, or the paint's old or whatever it is, at least you have that info. And then this one's a big one. What price would you put the home on the market for if you listed it today, right? It's not if I list it or if whatever. Try to put it back on them so that they can kind of put themselves in your position. If they were marketing it based on what they know, what would they list it at? If it's a $400,000 property and they say 600,000, and no way of any types of updates they can do to that property would it get there, you know a little bit more going in, right? Like what you're facing and what you're going to have to bring to the table. You're going to have to bring more comps. You're going to bring more info to help them understand that property is not worth that. At least ahead of time. I'm creating a net sheet. I want it to be as accurate as possible. Do you mind letting me know what you owe on the home, or having that prepared for me when I get there so we can plug it in the spreadsheet? And so that assumes you're doing the spreadsheet net the seller, which we provide for you at the end of this class. This one, what is the most, this could be the most important question you ask. What is the most important thing you're looking for in the real estate agent that sells your home? That one is about, hey, we listed it a year ago. The agent who listed it never communicated with me. Great. Now, when you go to that appointment, communication is your number one goal to let them know that you do, right? Communication. If they say my previous agent never marketed my property, can you tell me a little bit about that? Yeah, I thought they were going to put it all over online social media. Great. Now that whole first part we did today, that's where your focus is. Look, I have a Facebook business page. I have this, I have that. I will put your property on there, and I will run social media ads if that's part of your process there. So all of that, right there in that question can lead to a lot. Do you have any questions for me before we meet? This is a chance for them to say whatever it is they want to say, whatever questions they might have, and for you to be prepared. This is the question that you ask so that at the meeting, you're not surprised by something that they ask you, right? Could be tons of different things, but at least you get that answer hopefully on the phone before you go out to meet, so you can be prepared. This one's huge. Will all the decision makers be at our meeting? Has anyone ever gone to a listing appointment and at the end they say, thank you so much, like, oh, I'm ready to sign with you, but you know what, I got to check with husband, wife, somebody else on the deed, right? Like could have been another family member or brother or someone else in that on that deed that was not in that room with you, and the other person that was one of the decision makers. I mean, that is a deflating feeling. When you're there, you did all of that hard work. That person that you're talking to says yes, but now they have to talk to someone else. They will never convey how awesome you are to that other person the way that you will. And so that question before you go out helps you to define when you're going to actually have that meeting. Friday at 2, yes. Will all the decision makers be there? Oh, you know what, the other person on the deed, the husband, wife, whoever, they're out of town, but I take care of all of that for our house. That's amazing. Listen, I respect that, but is there any chance we could meet maybe Saturday or Sunday or Monday or two? Find a day, a time that both 3, 5, however many people are on the deed, the decision makers who are making that decision for that property can be there, so that you can be awesome one time in front of them at that listing appointment. Because if you don't, the chances of you having that listing once they go talk to the other 1, 2, 3 decision makers, whoever it is, drops dramatically, because they're all probably going to know somebody. Maybe they've already talked to somebody about listing the property, but you want to have that conversation with everyone, hopefully just once. Are you interviewing other agents? Might seem like a salesy, straightforward question to ask, and maybe too direct for some people. But this gives you the standpoint of, yes, I'm interviewing 2 local agents who sell in the neighborhood all the time. Maybe you don't sell in the neighborhood all the time. You're going to have to come in with more information about that neighborhood than those agents who are already in there. And whatever it is, you're going to find some piece of information about that when you ask that question. 2 more questions here. I'm going to email you a pre-listing package that is important to our meeting and to the success of your home selling. Would you please take 5 minutes to review it before we meet? This gets buy-in. They say yes. They feel like they're supposed to review it because you're going to send them a lot of great information. And if they do read it, it really will help this whole process. So there's no lie in that. It's the complete truth. And then our meeting should take between 45 minutes and an hour, including all the paperwork. Does that work for you? And the key word there is and all the paperwork, right? Assuming you're kind of putting it out there that we're going to sign all of our documents at the meeting when I come out Friday at 2 o'clock. So, I highlight a few here, but they're really all important. You will have this sheet right here that you see on the screen with all of these questions. Incorporate this into your next listing appointment and do the pre-listing appointment. And I guarantee you, even if you only ask half of these questions, you're going to be more prepared. There's no way that you can't be more prepared on the next one with any of these questions being answered. It keeps you from having to on the spot not only build that listing agent seller connection, walk through the property, see everything, and then now you're starting at the top with all these questions. It's tough, but if you can get the more of these you get answered before, the more prepared you're going to be and the better off you're going to be. So that package we were talking about that you're going to email over to them is going to be something with your marketing in there. It can be anything you want it to be. A resume about you. It can be a listing from a previous property that you did, just a flyer, the digital whatever. Can be the agent icon pictures that you've done. This is the type of marketing I do for my listings. The absorption report, that's important because not a lot of agents will bring that up. But what you're doing is not trying to explain the absorption report for them in this email. You're going to explain that when you actually meet with them, but you're going to have it in there. That's going to show a lot of data and a lot of information that you can't get anywhere else. They can't go to Zillow and get that. They're not going to get it on any other third-party website. You, the agent, really are the only one that's going to be able to bring that level of detail to the table. And we have a whole video about how to run that, what to put in, and things like that. But that's a huge report to have. Your cloud CMA, have that in a digital version, which is what that picture is right there with the Solid Source logo on it. You have access to that inside the MLS. The net to seller sheet, if you're going to do one of those, highly productive use of time to do that, showing different scenarios. If they price the property a certain way, what they may walk away with from there. And then the listing agreement, right? This can be an agreement that you have. We'll dive into it in a second, but all of the details other than price filled out, they get a copy of it just in case they have any questions. Some people will go through all of these documents and read it. Some people will not go through any of these documents and read them. And some people will fall in the middle. Some will read the listing agreement. Some will read your CMA before you get out there. Any traction you can get towards them reading any of these things puts you in a better light because they're going to see your information. They're going to know a little bit better. And probably their questions are going to be a little more focused when you get there. So the goal of those things, download them as PDFs, add them to a personal email, send it to the seller, and then call or text to verify that they've received it before you go out there, like the night before. So you're going out Friday at 2. So tomorrow afternoon, late afternoon, hey, just want to check in, make sure you got my email and had a chance to review, those documents, my marketing especially. Just want to make sure so I can, get your home ready as quick as possible, or whatever you want to say to that. And then get that confirmation, go out there to that meeting. And then what we'll do is show that at the presentation. So pre-listing, this is the presentation. We're coming to the seller's property. We're going to greet them, obviously. We're going to view the property, and we're going to review the documents. So as simple as that, right? Greeting the seller 10 minutes early, dress professionally, bring warm greeting and smile. We're going to meet at the kitchen table after we walk through the property and have that tour. And we're going to view the home through the eyes of a potential buyer. That's going to be our goal. And those are the things we're going to say to a seller is, I'd love to view this home through the eyes of our buyer that we bring. And, just want to make sure that's okay with you if I'm honest with you about what we see here today. You're viewing the home, writing down notes, updates, repairs. You're discussing with them because you're still building that business relationship with them. So you're looking for commonalities, right? Pictures on the wall, sports, animals. Those are, pretty easy, common ones to come up with. And you're interacting, with that seller and really looking through the property. If you blow through the property, in 2 minutes and just peek around the upstairs, climb to the top of the steps, climb down. Okay, great. I see what we're doing here. Let's go to the kitchen table and really chat. Depending on your seller, if that's an investor, fine. They may not care, right? Hey, I already told you it's 3-bed, 2-bath. This is what I'm looking to sell it. Let's get down to business. But if it's the typical home seller who's lived in that home 5-10 years or longer, they love their home. They're really proud of it. They're going to be appreciative of the agent who walks through, who notices all of the little things that they did to add value to the property. Hopefully it's value that's added to the property. And if not, it might just be fun things to talk about. But anyway, walking through that property, really seeing what they have there, opening the closet doors if it's okay with them. Hey, can I peek in here? Going through that whole property, showing them that you care and that you're going to take care of them through that whole process. After you tour the home, we're going to review the info. Thank you for allowing me to meet with you today. I'm excited. You're probably going to meet around the kitchen table or the living room or something like that. And then that's where you're going to go over everything that you have already emailed to that seller. So that's where you're going to go over the marketing. You're going to have your printout of all of these things, right? So you emailed them, you have the printout, and you're going to show them your marketing. That can be on a computer, digital. It can be printed out. Printed out makes a bigger impact if you can do it. If you can have like a whole, bunch of things on the table, they're going to be like, whoa, look at all this stuff. Digital, once you go to the next page, that page is gone, right? They're just looking at one page typically. So it depends on how you present it, but those are a couple different ways. Your absorption report, you're going to dive into it, really explain to them what's happening in that neighborhood or area. And depending on their personality type, you might dig a little bit deeper on that, or you might just kind of hit the high notes, right? If they're a high D personality, you might just give them the high notes. If they're more detailed and cautious, then you might go way deep in the weeds with that. That's up to that experience. Cloud CMA can be live or print. We'll show the difference there. The net to seller sheet, if you do that one, and then the listing agreement. You already have that printed out. It's with you in your folder that you're presenting to that seller, already completed, minus a couple things. We'll look at that here in a second. So your cloud CMA, this is what it looks like in any of the MLS systems. If you don't have this cover page automatically pop up, you may not have added Solid Source as the company in your profile, because once you do that, this page and about 5 or 6 other pages automatically feed into your cloud CMA about Solid Source, about our missions projects, about our numbers, things like that pop in. And so then you'll be able to print it out with that information already there. If you do the live CMA version, meaning you're at your client's seller's property and you're pulling it up on your laptop or iPad, then you can pull up something that looks like this inside the cloud CMA. It's really nice. So a lot of people say, hey, do we have a digital listing presentation? This is to me, this is better than any listing presentation digitally that I've seen. You may have a great one and you love it, keep using it. But if you don't have one or you want to change things up, this is fantastic. You do need to have an internet connection there. So just be aware of that piece of it. But you can dive in and do, agent resume. If you click on that button, it's going to show info about you. If you click on the comps, you can literally live look through the pictures together, look through the different comparables, and go through any of these things that you would put in your cloud CMA. They're just going to be more interactive, and then obviously digital. So you have 2 different options there. The printout, the live, you can do both. You can have the printout, give it to them, have the live together as you're presenting this information. One thing to talk to a seller about, sometimes they say my neighbor sold their home in 3 days, and is my home going to sell like that? Obviously we want to be upfront and honest about everything with the seller, and especially about what's happening in the market. Ultimately, there's a couple of hurdles that can happen in this process, and this is you explaining it to the seller. The offer, right? We're going to look at that. We're going to look at cash and finance types that are inside of the offer. We're going to talk about the inspection, because that's a potential hurdle, right, in this process. There may be some things the seller needs to do before we go to market, and there may be some things that the seller is going to handle after the inspection happens. The appraisal and the final walkthrough, obviously that's self-explanatory, but the goal of understanding this to a seller is to say, listen, I'm going to help you sell your home 4 times. And they're going to say, what do you mean? I just want you to sell it once. I'm moving. And then you're going to say, well, we actually are going to have an offer. We're going to have negotiations there, right? I'm going to be the person negotiating on your behalf to get you, the best possible price, the best terms available, because it's not always about price. Let me explain to you what I mean by that. Then go into the terms, portion, right? Finance contingency days, all that stuff. The inspection is going to happen. The buyer's probably going to come back with a report that looks like the house is falling apart, even though it just says maybe 3 or 4 things in there that you really might need to address. We're going to go through that negotiation. The appraisal is going to happen. There's an opportunity that the appraisal comes back lower than what the agreed upon price is. We're going to work through that. I'm going to help negotiate through this. There's going to be a final walkthrough, make sure all the repairs were done, everything's still working in the property, and then we'll go to closing, where there's going to be a closing statement. I'm going to help and take a look at that, review all of that information. So the reason I'm pointing out this information is that we take it for granted a lot because we're agents and this is just what we do. But a lot of sellers don't realize that there's this much that happens after they sign and say, great, please help me sell my property. They think that's it, right? Take the pictures, you throw them up there, and people just come to the property and offer. Last couple of years, have kind of I've kind of put maybe that to the forefront of sellers thinking that's how it works, but we really know it doesn't. And that now more than ever, we need to make them understand or help them understand that this is the part we're really getting paid for in the process, is to work through all of these things, because any one of these things, the offer can fall apart, right? At the offer time, at inspection time, at appraisal, or at the final walk, or really, any minute before that final signature is on all of the papers at closing. So we're going to help get through all of that process. This is not just about the person who brings the prettiest marketing, who has the most homes sold in the neighborhood. This is information and kind of, ammunition for you to go in against any other agent out there, because what other agents are going to bring up all of this info, right? Of course, all agents should do this, but if they don't tell that seller that they are doing this, then that's going to give you a leg up. So that's why this slide's in here. And then the listing agreement, what we talked about, right? Go ahead and have it filled out. Everything except for the listing price, the date. And if they say, hey, I don't want a 6-month listing agreement or 4-month or whatever you put in there initially, great, scratch through it and write the one that y'all do agree on. But make it easy for them to say yes to you after you show them all the great things you're going to do. So you have this printed, there's a pen, you bring a pen, because oh, let me go find a pen. And now, hey, while I was thinking about it, I want to interview, 12 other agents. And you had already, given them all the great info. They wanted to go with you. Don't let any hurdles happen in between you and being able to help them sell their property. So have that in there. Only thing needs to be put is their signature and the price that y'all agree on. And then it's time to list it, right? We're not going to talk a ton about what is required inside of MLS. We do have some information coming out on that pretty soon. And we do have an opportunity here. If you don't want to do this yourself, for only $50, we will put your listing into both MLSs if you have it, or just one if you have it. So if you say, hey, I don't want to put this in MLS, I don't have time, we offer that here. But I'm going to show you that, if you do have time, all that you need to do is have this data input sheet filled out, which you can. The recommendation that I have is you go to that listing appointment, you secure the listing agreement, and then you come back for pictures and you fill this out yourself, either on your laptop live, or you bring a printed copy, fill it out, and then you transfer it into your computer after. That's the best way to do it, in my opinion. You can do it however you want, but I think that's the best way. If we do it, we'll need the printed version filled out, or you can do it online and save it as a PDF and email it into us. But we only need these two things, and that's all really you need to do if you want to do it yourself: the data input sheet and pictures. And so if you're going to put it in Georgia MLS, you also have to put it in FMLS because you're an FMLS member here. Is that right, Rena? I see your gears are turning.
Yes, that's correct. If you have Georgia MLS, you have to put it in there. If you have FMLS, it'll be required for the compulsory area, but Georgia MLS, 100%.
Okay. Thank you. Anything else you want to add on this piece? This is Rena's wheelhouse.
We're happy to enter your listing for you. We do need these two things, but we'll also ask for your brokerage engagement agreements just so that we can have it on file.
Perfect. Status, just want to review the different types that are at least in FMLS. All of this information is in FMLS if you have any questions about what these mean. But essentially, if you do a coming soon, it's going to be in that, right? If it's active, just listed, it's going to be inactive. Pending is under, essentially under contract. They do have an active under contract feature. But, pending is like we all know the word pending, and then closed. So all of that is fairly straightforward in the MLS. They have a lot of videos on it. We do have some videos coming out on how to do this in a simplified, efficient manner. But the info there to take away is that we can do it, or you can do it. It's not daunting to do. Prep and market. Does anyone here believe in coming soons? Like to do coming soons? Think it works for properties to sell? See a few heads shaking yes, up and down yes. You know, before maybe this recent market shift, where it's probably if the property is ready to go, it might be a good idea to go ahead and get the property on the market. Then I love coming soons in a normal balanced market. I think it gives you an opportunity, even if it's a couple of days, to do coming soon to pre-market that property. And so I'm a big believer in it. If if you're not, then that's up to you completely. But this is what I think you can do with it.
If we close November 1st to 3rd, would that change the?
Oh, doing some negotiations. I love it. All right, professional photos and video. We're going to send it to our database early for an online preview. Hey, got this property coming out. Just want to let you know. Coming soon, you can do for up to 30 days. Rena told me it just moved up to 30 from 21. Unless you're doing a lot for this property to get it ready, like your seller's doing a lot of stuff to do it, you probably aren't going to go 30 days. But you can do it for as little as 1 day. You can do coming soon postcards or the agent icon where it says coming soon. There's just another opportunity for you to get it out there, right? So coming soon today, 2 days later, it goes active, just listed, this property, right? So it's another marketing opportunity for you. And so I'm going to show you a sample calendar, which is essentially what we're just talking about here. But really, if you think about this, it's a huge benefit for your seller, right? People say, oh, I don't like to do, coming soons. It's an extra step. But if you think about it, this is an opportunity for them to set up a coming soon and then do an open house as soon as you're ready to go live. And then in that open house, they only have to come out of the property for 2 to 3 hours that Saturday. Maybe you do Saturday, Sunday. And so for 2 to 3 hours both days, that's when all the showings happen, right? And so you set this up, build a little bit of the buzz with the coming soon. Everybody comes to the property Saturday, hopefully from 2 to 4 or whatever time it is. And now there's a bunch of people hopefully at the property all saying, wow, they're interested. We better get on the ball and, potentially make an offer here. And then you're able to show that to your sellers. Obviously, that's how we all want it to work. Does it always work like that? No, but that's the opportunity here. And so this is a sample calendar. Say you sign an agreement or they sign the agreement. You do coming soon for as long as you need. This one is, 9 days, it looks like, or longer. And then you go on market this Thursday. Showing started the open house, for Saturday, right? So you're putting it out there that's what happens. So now this active on market date, everyone sees it in the MLS. Showing started the open house. The open house happens on the weekend. You collect all the offers and negotiations and feedback that happens that next week. So this is a sample time frame showing you what it could look like. And definitely, if you're not a believer in the open house, there are quite a few agents who build their business on top of doing open houses. So if you aren't that person, but you want to have an open house for that property, let us know. We'll put it out or put it out there on the Facebook agent community group. There are always agents asking us for that. So trying to build their business and try to get to be known in that area. All right, moving on to the picture side. Who prefers picture A? Anybody? No. Picture B, right? Ken. No, Ken said B, yes. Right. So this is the same property, right? One is shot by a person, and one is shot by a photographer with editing software, with all of that stuff, right? So DIY and pro. I think we probably all know that, but sometimes you have to see it, to actually say, oh yeah, that kind of makes sense, right? Like look at the editing software, look at the light. It's not just about the camera, right? It's not just about that piece of it. So what we're going to talk about in this brief section is that this is your marketing. These are the things that people look at and say, wow, did you see? I've been in that property. Did you see how well this agent marketed that property? Like I know what it looks like, and it doesn't look as great as what those pictures look like. Now they have to be real pictures. We don't want to Photoshop those, but cell phone pictures, your equipment again is probably as good as especially have one of the newer smartphones. They're about as good as some of the DSLRs out there as far as the taking one picture. But what they can do with the technology and the editing software and a lot of the DSLRs and the other cameras that they have out there is that it is way different, right? Like, let's be real, there's so many different lenses and things like that. They can get into tight quarters and just make that area look much better. So these professional pictures are your brand, they're your marketing. You want to arrive a little bit early on that day. And although if you're not doing a full staging or the seller doesn't want to do staging, you do want to make sure that you have some information from the photographer on what we can do to get that property ready, right? Open blinds, turn the ceiling fans off. There's a lot of different things. If the seller hasn't cleaned off their countertops, I'm going to give you a checklist that you can send them before, like the day before, 2 days before the photos are coming, so that they can do that, because they need to be able to declutter and do all that stuff. And that's on this checklist right here that I'm going to give to you at the end of class. So you can give this to your seller and say, hey, listen, photos are, Thursday. We just want to make sure we have this all done by Wednesday or Tuesday or whatever it is, so that we can photograph this property. And, the thing to let your seller know is, hey, this property, we want to have it in hotel-like condition for about 2 hours, right? Let's do the photos, and then you go back to life, and we can have showings. It doesn't have to be quite as perfect, but for the pictures, we need this thing to be, pristine. This is, again, your marketing. So if we don't relay this to the seller and the photos aren't, we pay for the photos, but then they aren't great because there's clutter all over the place, that's going to show on you and not the seller, even though it is maybe their fault. They're going to ask you why their home isn't selling, right? So it's better to just be upfront with them and give them this. If you're going to do drones, great. You may have a wow factor, a lake, a mountain, golf view, something like that. If it's new construction, you might have, floor plans. There's a lot of places now that are doing floor plans, even for resale properties. A lot of the equipment and the 3D software can do that. There's virtual staging, renders, and a lot of other cool things. And so I want to show you a couple of quick pictures of what that might look like. This is from a service called boxbrownie.com. Very inexpensive way to do different things to your property. But this is a photo, looks great. But what they've done in the image enhancement for $1.60 is go in, brighten it up. It looks much better. It's still the same property, obviously, but they've done some editing to it. So this is a photo either, hopefully the photographer took, but if you took it, you sent it in and now it cleaned up that image. This is virtual staging. So before there's nothing there, and afterwards there's an entire room. These things have gotten really good. They almost are almost impossible to detect. And if you do this, you do need to say it was virtually staged in the MLS systems. But you can see it gives the buyer an opportunity to be like, oh yeah, an entire bed does fit here, or how would I rearrange that? We've all been out with buyers in a vacant property who've been like, I don't know if there's enough room in here for whatever it is, even though it might be a massive room, right? Like they just can't conceptualize it. And so this helps do that. Before picture of item removal. So, there's clutter left. They still haven't moved it out, but it's going to be out on Tuesday before showing start. You can have this done for $4 to remove that equipment. And now you actually have a good picture to go up on the MLS system. If they're going to put a pool in, or you've all seen this, like, hey, imagine this place with a pool. Well, they'll do that too for, it looks like anywhere from $24 and up. If you have a floor plan, like you're working in that new construction arena, this is a 3D, a 3D here, a top view of a like cartoonish type floor plan, but they'll also do a 3D rendering of the property as well if you need that. So all of that's available out there. Just want to make sure you know about those things. Some additional things, you have your signs, obviously, that you can put up and market yourself, and know that on these signs, you have your cell phone number, obviously, but your office number rings to your cell phone. And then if anyone calls here for your property that you're listing, we're going to send that person straight to you. And we do get calls here for properties because they either called this first number, they see the logo, they look us up on Google or something like that. And so the difference here at Solid Source is we send that call directly to you rather than it going to desk duty or anything like that. So just want to let you know that in case you already didn't know that piece. And you can buy signs at solidsourcemall.com if you need those. So maybe you have a property that you're listing and the features of it aren't immediately visible when you walk in the property. And here are some examples of what that might look like. And so what you might do is go to the dollar store, grab some photo frames, and have some printouts of things like this under cabinet lighting, right? So have that set up on the kitchen counter so they know to flip the switch to actually see that. You would hope that the seller or you or someone can flip all the switches on before showings, but let's be real, it doesn't always happen. LED recessed lighting, huge walk-in attic. Maybe there's a door over here that kind of looks like it's the attic. Maybe there's some finished part of it or something in there you want them to see. So maybe that's on the wall or on the door itself or taped up or whatever it is to let them know that's there. In-ground sprinkler system, it's kind of hard to notice unless you see the, Rainbird thing in the garage or whatever. Heated tile floors, that's really hard to notice unless they know what they're looking for on the switch. This is one from someone here on staff had a Bluetooth speaker in the bathroom fan. I don't know how you would know that if you didn't have someone say, hey, that's in this fan up here. So these are just examples of things that you might say, wow, how do we market that? But if your seller sees that you're looking for those things and pointing those things out, you're probably going to be in a better position in their mind to say, wow, they checked through everything. They made sure that this person knew we had an example is like a closet that looks like it's just a 2-foot deep closet, but really open it up and it's like a walk-in, right? Or the hidden pantry. We've all seen, the popularity of those over the years in the kitchen. Unless you have the doors open, unless your seller remembers to keep the doors open, or there was a great picture online that the buyer just happened to remember, oh yeah, let me open this and go through there. Maybe that's something that you put on one of these. And like I said, this is a very inexpensive way to show that and just print out the words that go on there. Anyone like setting up lockboxes and find that fun to go do? It's kind of tricky, right? And there's so many different things you can do with it. If you don't know this part, you can set the hours. So if your seller says, hey, no showings on Fridays, right? And then you might say, well, can you just put the lockbox inside your house every Friday? And they're like, well, I travel, Thursday through here. So if I set it in, it's going to be whatever the scheduling happens, you can set that up on the lockbox for it to not work. We've probably all worked with buyers where we've gone at a certain time where we thought the lockbox was going to be open and maybe it didn't open. It's because the listing agent probably had it set either for that property or another one, and they just reused it and it was set in there not to open at a certain time. You have to be careful because of the whole daylight savings time change. I don't know if they've corrected that, but I know as recently as I think last week, I heard a story about an agent who went there at maybe 8:00 a.m. and couldn't get in at 8:01 because the agent, I believe, had it set for 9 a.m. open. So you have to be careful with it, but you can set the schedule for the lockbox itself, especially if you have a seller who says, during the week, no showings, only weekend, then you can set it here for that lockbox to actually not work, not open. So that way, if they set it out, didn't set it out, whatever it is, you're helping protect their house. You do have a login for the actual Super account to be able to get to all of this info, and you can do it from your phone too through the app. Definitely test and make sure when you put that lockbox on the property that it works, right? Put the keys in, test it a couple of times on your eKey app just to make sure. That's not a call you want to get when somebody's ready to see the property and they have to get you over there to help show it. Showing time. This is a good system. There's a lot of different things you can do with it. You can block off the schedule. All that this does, though, is block off the opportunity for someone to go and schedule. They can still get in a lockbox unless you set the time frame there. So they don't necessarily talk to each other in that sense of the schedule part. This is just if the seller says, hey, this Thursday, I can't have any showings because whatever's happening at the house. So then you go block off Thursday, all day or whatever it is in the calendar. Now no one can set up request a showing for that day. Approving showings, you can do it. The seller can approve it if they desire. I typically don't recommend that you let the seller approve, or really the bad part is if they unapprove, if they disapprove a showing, then you're going to have that agent calling you saying, hey, my buyer's put in a showing and it's been denied twice. Like what's going on? You're going to say, oh, let me check with the seller. So I would always have that come through you. Hey, they've requested a showing Friday at noon. Does that work for you? Great. Approve and go that route, because you can still set them up on text updates once they're approved. But I mean, unless you're ridiculously comfortable with that seller and they know what they're doing, and they just have so many different things where they need to approve or unapprove, or maybe you tell them, if you're going to unapprove one or disapprove, talk to me first, then that might be the way to go. But other than that, you can set it up however you want. The good thing also inside of showing time is you'll have a report who's showed the property, like the agent ID, and then it automatically sends feedback. If you haven't been on the listing side before and seen that, you've probably seen it on the buy side. You show the property, you look at your email, all of a sudden, hey, what did you think about this property? And so it's going to obviously ask you all of those questions. You can set up and customize those questions if you want to for your listings, but it's going to automatically send out. That's great information to show your seller, especially in a market like we're in that's shifting a little bit, and they say, hey, why is my home on the market more than a few days? Like, let's go look through the feedback. Here it is, right? They said this, and this about it. We need to work on these, these things. This is the best information that you can give to a seller because it's actually from buyers who've come out to see the property. And assuming that you can get the information from the seller or from the buyer's agent, that's probably the hardest piece. But a lot of times if you text and say, hey, what did they think? If you can't get them to answer this, maybe you can get some good info to go to your seller. Showings and open houses. This is just a couple of things you can do to have that property set up ready and look as professional as possible. On the table near the door, maybe you have some bottled waters, mints in a bowl, your business cards, because there are going to be people who come there who maybe aren't committed to that real estate agent that they're with. And if they see your information, they've seen your Facebook ad before or something like that, maybe they end up connecting directly with you. Not for that property, but for something else, maybe. Flyers, you can use list reports data in there. Your buyer and seller guides can be printed out there. So it's really, whatever you want to do. But the good thing about having this for an open house is if someone comes in unrepresented, you're going to be able to go in there and hopefully work with that person in the future. So as much marketing as you can have out there, because again, getting face-to-face, that's the goal. List reports, does anyone in here use list reports or has set up an account in there? No? Okay, well, good. We got some good learning pieces today. So list reports is an included service. It's included because you're an MLS member. All that you have to do when you have a listing is go inside listreports.com, set yourself up a profile one time, and then what it'll do is pull in all of your listings that you have, and you just print, email, download, whatever you want to do with these things. But you've probably seen these in listings. They're getting more popular to actually put in the MLS listing as you scroll through all of the pictures. This is something that's getting pretty popular, especially where it's like schools in the area, conveniences, eats, things like that. But it's ridiculously easy to do. Well, this is definitely getting more popular and something that you can add to your system, to your listing process, really, and then show the seller, right? So, hey, listen, this is the type of thing that I'm going to provide for you for your listing. So again, it's just more information that you're able to share and put out there. Remember, y'all, success is where preparation and opportunity meet. So we want to prepare as best possible, have that pre-listing appointment, get all the information out of the way, prepare for it. And then we have the opportunity with that seller, right? So, I mean, that's where we're going to have the most successful opportunity. We're getting ready to start wrapping up and open up the floor to everybody, but I wanted to give you these QR codes where we talked about earlier with the contact card. So definitely feel free to snap these if you want to while we're looking at it. But I will show you on the next slide where to get this whole class downloaded. And so then you can scan it to save to your phone later if you want. But this one over here is the Solid Source broker contact card. So if you just say, hey, I've never actually typed Solid Source broker in my phone as the contact card, the email address, phone number for us is there. Obviously, agent icon, Solid Source Realty, and Solid Source Realty Georgia. I don't know that I put, oh yeah, sorry. Inside of each of these, you'll have the listing. So pick whichever firm you're with because you'll have the listing and then you'll have the agent promo inside of that. So both of them are inside of that contact card. You don't have to worry about the other one. KV Core, sign up if you're interested there. Our Solid Source channel, which is the front end of our YouTube channel, which is where we put all of our recorded videos. Like we'll put this class once we edit it on there. And then Solid Source Connect. If you haven't been to Solid Source Connect before, we had it a while back and then we've kind of revised it this year. And ultimately, it's a resource section for you for our videos. If you're writing a contract, there's a section there that says, I'm writing a contract. What do I do? If you need help with earnest money information or anything that has to do with contracts, there's a lot of videos set up where you can just read the question, say, yep, that's my question, and find the answer most likely in a video form right there. So that's what that is. All right, here it is. So download this class. This is what you're going to see when you download it. If you do it on your mobile phone, if you do it on your laptop, it's going to be similar. But you can either go to this website. It's bit.ly/leads and listings, or you can scan this QR code right here. But whichever one you do, you'll have access to what's on the right of the screen, all of those different things. We didn't actually go over the appraisal sheet summary, but we can bring that up here and look at it. But that one is if you're meeting the appraiser on site, or when you're meeting the appraiser on site, you'll want to have some information prepared for them, just to make sure that they have all the right comps. They know all the good information about that property that you have. That's what that summary sheet does, is kind of guide you through that. Net to seller sheet we've talked about. The offer summary sheet is when you get that offer, you want to put it in a one-page document just to clean up all the numbers, and then still send the full offer over, obviously. That's what that's for. The pre-photo shoot checklist is in there. And then the class is under this leads and listings solid source 2022. So all of that will be in there. You should be able to have access to it. If for any reason it's not working for you, please let me know, and we'll make sure we get that over to you. But that's how you get today's class.